Hi everyone, today we're talking about the poem A Valediction Forbidding Mourning. As usual, let's first do a summary and then move on to the line-by-line analysis. A Valediction is a poem about parting, really. So in this poem, we see two lovers parting, and the lover that's leaving is urging his lover to not be upset. And we don't have any of this argumentative structure, this attempt to convince the lover. Rather, it's more of soft, gentle advice, this figure of a lover who's truly concerned with his feelings. The title is pretty much the summary: Forbidding Mourning. So the speaker is forbidding his woman from feeling upset and instead asking her to focus on the bright part, which is that it's more of a spiritual leaving and that they're always together in their mind. There are more pauses and more stanzas here to highlight the complexity of their moral and emotional situation. So the tone is more gentle, more sober, more thoughtful, more reflective. And we have 9 quatrains, so 9 stanzas of 4 lines each. The rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B. No rhyming couplets. They're separated in the poem as they are by distance. The meter is iambic tetrameter, very measured, very structured, again with this idea of calming the person down. And there's no iambic pentameter, perhaps because it's not like this emotional passion of a beating heart, but rather it's this calm goodbye of a man who's practiced at saying his leaving words and telling his lover to just bide her patience, bide her time, and hopefully they'll be reunited soon. But also, this measured and structured stanza is quite appropriate for the somber topics that we have, which you will see in a second with the first stanza. As virtuous men pass mildly away, and whisper to their souls to go, while some of their sad friends do say, the breath goes now, and some say no. As good men, virtuous men, and honest men pass, they do so quietly. And they do it quietly, like they do everything quietly, in a calm, in a composed way, without excessive emotion, without excessive drama. And likewise, this poem mirrors that mindset, this idea that a wise man is wise because he's quiet, he's composed, and he's very gentle. And notice that Donne uses the euphemism pass away rather than die, which I think is very much a deliberate choice. Donne uses the word die, the verb die rather, several times in his poetry. And here it's specifically passing away because it's soothing. It's not meant to provoke, it's not meant to draw attention to this death, it's simply a fact. They passed away, they passed to the next world, they departed. They whisper to their souls to go. They don't fight to stay on this earth, they don't cause any drama, and even their souls listen to them because they're so calm, composed, quiet, gentle. So they tell them when it is time to go, and then they gently ascend up to the sky. Notice how many times he says mild, quiet. That's the idea that he's saying here. That's the message, and that's very much how, why the structure and the gentle rhythm of the poem is like this. And they pass so quietly that it's almost impossible to know whether they have left, which is why their friends who have come to join them at their deathbed are not sure. Have they gone to the next world yet, or have they not? It's impossible to be sure because they're not making this big deal out of it, and that's what he's urging the lovers to do here, to also not make a big deal out of their parting, to simply go and pass, and of course they will reunite eventually. So let us melt and make no noise, no tear floods nor sigh tempests move, to our profanation of our joys, to tell the laity our love. Let us melt, let us do something. So he's calling this action for him and his lover to melt. It's this image of wholly and slowly dissolving without noise. When something melts, it doesn't burn, it doesn't go out in a flame, it simply decomposes, it simply loses its form and changes its structure. And isn't that what he's saying here to his lover? Let's change structure, we're about to be apart. And it's slightly hyperbolic because it's almost saying that saying goodbye is like death, but it really mirrors Donne's example that, again, melting, like virtuous men pass mildly away, so we should quietly leave and part our ways too. No tear floods, no sigh tempest move. So he has used these neologisms to once again make fun, to mock the Petrarchan idea of the courtly lover, and to say, look, you and I, we're better than this. We can leave quietly without any of these dramatic and excessive sighing. He's saying that let's leave like this man does, because to leave with these sighs and hysterics would be a degradation of our love, the laity of our love. If we draw so much attention to it, then it ruins the purity of our love, and laity is like a lay person. So he's saying that these reactions should be, well, really should be the reactions of common people, but certainly not us, certainly not appropriate for our noble and honest and quiet and virtuous love, so let's do without it. Moving of the earth brings harms and fears, men reckon what it did and meant, but trepidation of the spheres, though greater far, is innocent. So this is referencing that idea that the moving of the earth is what brings about earthquakes, brings about hurricanes. So he moves on to Ptolemy's idea about this trepidation of the spheres, this idea that everything is in motion and in balance, but in fact it's actually the slight shaking and the trembling of the spheres, their rotation, that makes and causes these natural disasters instead. But Donne is actually saying here that this shaking is innocent. So to translate this into normal language, essentially he's saying that earthquakes and shakes cause average people, men, to fear and question what they did and what they committed. So the greater spheres shaking are actually innocent of causing the harms and fears of people. They're merely moving as they always do. It's humans that invoke, that add this deeper sense of fear towards it. Most people don't notice this shaking of the spheres. We only notice it when we see these like earthquakes and shakes. So in other words, he's saying that actually the shaking goes on all the time. It's just we only notice it when we see this devastation rain down, when we let our fears consume us. So he's saying like average men only notice this drama, this eruption of an earthquake. They don't really understand the subtle shaking and movement of the spheres. That's our love. It's also subtle, and it's also like those subtle and shaking rotations of the spheres in this Ptolemaic universe. So of course, laymen, common people, they wouldn't understand that we don't need these hysterics for parting. And why should we care? We are like those spheres, we're spiritual, we're above it all. Thou sublunary lover's love, whose soul's sense cannot admit absence, because it doth remove those things which elemented it. So sublunary lovers is what he calls everybody else. Under the moon, sublunary, dull, usual, ordinary people who are subject to the changeable moon, people who are affected by the weather, people who are affected by external forces. There's this lovely alliteration here, whose soul is sense, only draws attention to their inadequacy and normality. Their soul is sense. They're governed by these emotions full of sense, that this is how they should act, so that is how they act. And they cannot handle being apart because they think that relationships are built on proximity, and indeed their relationships are built on proximity. They only have sense when they're next to each other. They need their physicality to be lovers, but we don't. So for them, they can't be all touchy and feely if the person is gone, so their love does not survive for long if one person decides to move on, or if one person stops loving, or even if one person is gone for a temporary time. But our love is not like that. It's built on senses. It's built on something more. We're over the moon. We're over the moon. We're extraordinary. So our love does not follow these conventions. We shouldn't really be scared of being apart. But we, by a love so much refined that ourselves know what it is, interassured of the mind, care less eyes, lips, and hands to miss. We, on the other hand, so this connective draws attention to this opposition, but we are so much refined, we are so much more complicated, we're so much deeper than the superficial, only physical type of love. And we are in fact so complex that we ourselves don't know what our love is like. So there's a real sense of mystery here, of love as something almost religious, like our love is a higher power and we're ensured through our mind. So we're linked through our mind. We don't care if our eyes and lips and hands don't meet. That's not how our minds and souls link to each other. We link through our spirituality. You're the other half of my soul. I only need my mind to be connected to you. We are linked on a deeper level. We need not care that we're physically apart. Our two souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach, but an expansion, like go to airy thinness beat. So we then have a caesura after to emphasize it, that our two souls are one. So this Platonic idea that our souls are meant together, that we're two halves of the same whole. So what does it matter if we're apart? Though I must go, I must leave, but what does it matter? We don't suffer a breach. It's that conceit of a castle having not been broken just because this main guard or the king has left. Our fortress of love stands impermeable. Though I must go, and you're not yet. It's a splendid. It draws attention to this idea. We then have an interesting conceit that is almost like their love is like gold, which is hit by hammers. So it's saying that our love is like gold because any other metal, you hit it with a hammer, it breaks. But gold, it's ductile. The whole point is that you can make gold into rings, into necklaces. You hit it, but it doesn't break. It becomes stronger. It becomes like a ring, so it becomes almost infinite. It becomes something continuous, just like our love. Under pressure, we don't break. In fact, under pressure, we only become more beautiful. So we are linked even if we are apart, is the idea from that conceit. If they be two, they are two so, as stiff twin compasses are two, thy soul, the fixed foot, makes no show to move, but doth if the other do. Oh, one of Donne's most famous conceits. This is the conceit that you read about when you first hear about Donne, and so many videos later into the series, we have finally gotten into this original source. So the conceit of the compasses, if they are two, if we are two, if our two souls are actually two, if those two souls are two and separate, then they are two as stiff twin compasses are two. So compasses are those things that we use to draw a circle like this. You trace a circle with one leg and the other stands firm, so we're joined at one end like mathematical compasses. Our souls might be two, but because we are soulmates, we're actually joined here at the tip by the fact that we're soulmates. So even if we're separated and the feet are on opposite ends of the globe, it doesn't really matter because we're soulmates and we're always linked together. Thy soul, thy fixed foot. So you are the foot of the compass that stays. You are constant, you're fixed, and I'm that soul that travels around, that makes a circle, but the circle always revolves around you. You are always in my thoughts. We are together and united in all of our travels and adventures. And though it in the center sit, yet when the other far doth roam, it leans and hearkens after it, and grows erect as that comes home. So though it sits in the center, though the compass foot stays fixed on the paper, the other far doth roam. So when I must move far apart in a circle to circle the globe, you change your angle, you attempt to be near me, you lean towards me. Don't worry, I understand that it's not like you don't miss me. I understand that your very soul goes towards me, who is traveling around the globe. And you lean and you change and you admire me all the more as I move. You grow even taller and stronger as I come home. You grow erect because we are united. We stand stronger and we are neither apart, even though we're never apart, though we might be physically separated. And of course erect is not by accident here. It's done, and you know from earlier poems that he loves his sexual connotations here. So continuing, such wilt thou be to me who must like the other foot obliquely run. Thy firmness makes my circle just, and makes me end where I begun. Like these compasses you will be to me, and I must obliquely, strangely, run, while I must follow this indirect, this circular route. It's your firmness that makes my circle just. It's your strength and your surety, in other words, that makes my circle perfect. I wouldn't be able to draw this perfect circle if you weren't standing firm and stronger when I come home. You are my other half. You are what permits me to leave, because I know that you're like my lighthouse, that I will always come back to you. So please, please just continue to stand strong and firm. You make me end where I began. You ensure that I always come back with your love. And it's knowing that you are like this that enables me to come home, that enables me to not cry and stand strong. So it's a valediction forbidding mourning. Let us not mourn for each other, because let us remember, you are my world, and you standing strong is what makes me able to travel the world. Alright, and that's the end of this romantic poem, this sad but at the same time incredibly not sad because it's so romantic and empowering poem on love and on leaving and on separation. Thank you so much for watching this video and making it until the end, and I will see you next week.